If they want to release it, it's okay with me to release it. It's perfect.
What would release? Can you tell us what they were looking at?
For what, releasing?
No. What part of your body was the MRI looking at?
I have no idea. It was just an MRI. What part of the body? It wasn't the brain because I took a cognitive test and I aced it. I got a perfect mark.
As part of President Trump's comprehensive executive physical, advanced imaging was performed because men in his age group benefit from a thorough evaluation of cardiovascular and abdominal health. The purpose of this imaging is preventative, to identify any issues early, confirm overall health, and ensure the president maintains long-term vitality and function. President Trump's cardiovascular imaging was perfectly normal. No evidence of arterial narrowing impairing blood flow or abnormalities in the heart or major vessels. The heart chambers are normal in size, the vessel walls appear smooth and healthy, and there are no signs of inflammation or clotting. Overall, his cardiovascular system shows excellent health. His abdominal imaging is also perfectly normal. All major organs appear very healthy and well perfused. Everything evaluated is functioning within normal limits with no acute or chronic concerns. In summary, this level of detailed assessment is standard for an executive physical at President Trump's age and confirms that he remains in excellent overall health.
Meantime, the Trump administration is cracking down on the asylum of Afghan nationals. The reignited immigration debate is putting Democrats on the defense. Congressional correspondent Bill Melugin is live on Capitol Hill with this story. Hi, Bill.
Aisha, good morning to you. Democrats here on Capitol Hill are lashing out against some of President Trump's new controversial immigration proposals, including a plan in which he says he would like to permanently ban all migration to the U.S. from so-called third world countries. Here's Democrats responding.
When he says things like third world countries, what is he really saying? I think what he's saying is he doesn't want brown people in our country. And that is disturbing, and it's un-American.
This is what he does, and he tries to stoke division and make people hate each other.
But some Republicans are backing the president's idea, saying recent headlines have made it clear much stricter guardrails are needed when it comes to who is allowed to come into America.
The real question is, why were they brought into the country to begin with? In other words, why are we bringing people into the United States from parts of the globe, for instance, where pederastic rape is considered culturally acceptable?
Now, one of those recent headlines comes out of the state of Minnesota. That's where Governor Tim Walz is under fire after a massive $1 billion fraud scheme was uncovered by federal prosecutors, with dozens of Somalis convicted for running companies that were billing the state for social services that were never rendered, as well as stealing public funds. The New York Times out with this brutal headline over the weekend saying, quote, "How fraud swamped Minnesota's social services system on Tim Walz's watch." And President Trump took aim at Walz in a Truth Social post, calling him incompetent and, quote, retarded, and also said he will strip temporary protected status from Somalians in Minnesota. Governor Walz fired back at Trump on Sunday, saying that he has no solutions and that all he does is demonize. And Aisha, as immigration is once again back in the national conversation, it's worth pointing out it's been almost 40 years since Congress passed any type of bipartisan significant legislation on the subject. Certainly feels like that is not going to change anytime soon. We'll send it back to you.
Okay, Bill Melugin live for us on the Hill. Bill, thank you.
And breaking news alert on that third world immigration pause. President Trump is arguing that some cultures are just not compatible with Western civilization. And senior foreign policy correspondent Jillian Turner has more. Good morning, Jillian.
Good morning to you, Dana. The president told reporters aboard Air Force One that he does not want foreigners from what he calls third world countries coming to the United States at all anymore. Period. This is a sentiment he has expressed in the past, but we have not heard the president put it this bluntly in a long time, if perhaps ever. Take a listen.
They shouldn't be in our country this way.
Can you give any
We don't want them. We don't want those people. We have enough problems. We don't want those people. No time limit. But it could be a long time.
You said this.
We don't want those people. Do you understand that?
So whether this converts into actual U.S. foreign policy remains to be seen, but he explained his reasoning by saying these countries are without governance and they rely on criminals to preserve law and order. In the wake of an Afghan national murdering a service member in the National Guard and wounding another here in D.C., the State Department has hit pause now on all immigration from that country. They are also looking for legal mechanisms to tamp down on a much wider range of countries. They write mass migration poses an existential threat to Western civilization and undermines the stability of key American allies. One prominent advocate for Afghans who risked their lives to serve alongside Americans and fight the war on terror in that country says this is the wrong policy. Take a listen.
Everything that the president is saying about these folks is just wrong. Everyone was vetted before they came here, before they got on a plane, before they got, when they got to a third country, before they got here, when they arrived here.
So immigration officials, Dana, in concert with other seniors across the federal government, are re-reviewing this list of 19 countries of particular concern, taking a look at the way visas and other types of entry are allowed here into the United States. We'll see what comes next.
Yeah, Jillian Turner, thank you so much. Aisha? Well, amid all of this, Dana, that Afghan national accused of shooting those 2 National Guard members in Washington is now facing a first-degree murder charge. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro announcing that upgrade after the death of one of the victims last week.
There are certainly many more charges to come, but we are upgrading the initial charges of assault to murder in the first degree.
Joining us now is Fox News contributor Andy McCarthy, a former assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. Good to see you, Andy. It sounds like they're looking into radicalization sometime after he came here to the country, that he had contact with people back in Afghanistan. We don't know exactly what was communicated to him, what happened. We know that he was suffering from mental health issues. That's according to some reporting out there, that he was struggling with his mental health. He had isolated himself, sometimes in a dark room, couldn't find work for a year. It sort of creates the perfect set of conditions to be radicalized. Do you think we'll see perhaps more charges and more people pulled into this investigation?
Well, we'll obviously see more charges depending on what happens to the other soldier who was wounded. I think the indictment will come sometime in the coming weeks, and I expect we'll see many more charges. There's no indication that I've seen so far, Aisha, that other people are involved in this. I don't buy this whole, radicalization once he got here. I must say I've been following this closely since I prosecuted terrorists in the 1990s. When they say, he was fully vetted, I have to ask, vetted with what? We've spent like 20 years basically eviscerating the ability of the United States government to vet people by taking ideology off the table, taking concepts like jihad off the table. I don't know what they mean when they say he was fully vetted when he got here, so he must have been radicalized once he got here, because I don't know how we vet people.
I don't either. I mean, it's kind of sad, but we have no idea. I mean, no one's telling us what the process was. This is the Homeland Security spokesperson, Tricia McLaughlin, with us just a short while ago on the vetting process during the Biden administration. Listen to this.
This vetting was paper thin. They weren't doing biometric vetting. They weren't really doing criminal vetting, criminal screening, cyber screening, financial crimes. They weren't cross-referencing. They weren't looking at social media. So President Trump and Secretary Noem have completely overhauled this process to make sure we're diving in deep and seeing who are the people who are actually entering this country.
So, Andy, how do you vet someone properly from a third world country, from a country like Afghanistan that's now under the control of the Taliban? How do you vet them? And then do you continue vetting them while they're here? Because I can't imagine that we would have the manpower to continue monitoring or surveilling or vetting people after they've been given asylum.
No, that's a great point. I mean, this guy came into the country. He was one of 86,000 people that they jammed in all at one time. I think, Aisha, that it's a mistake for the administration to use the term third world, because they make themselves vulnerable to all kinds of claims that would be easily avoided if you point out that if you have a regime that's hostile to the United States, if you have a regime that, even if it's not hostile, it doesn't have good, reliable record keeping that we could conceivably look into somebody's background with, and if you have people who come from an ideological culture that's counter-constitutional and hostile to the West, we don't want people from those places, because we can't, in any kind of a reliable way, look into their background and figure that they will assimilate once they get here, which is what we want.